Good morning, artists. Today we're drawing this, the Incredible Hulk. So let's get out your paper, your pencils, and your markers. Let's do this. Now, because my table has a little bit of texture, I'm using a couple sheets of paper just to cushion the lines that I draw. It makes them a little bit neater. And here, very lightly, I'm kind of doing a gesture line just to kind of measure the way I'm going to draw. I know where the middle of the paper is, and that's where the head is going to be. It's going to be very light. Draw lightly at first. You can always draw darker. And I'm speeding this up just so you can see the shapes that I'm going to be drawing. They're all made out of ovals. I got legs, I got the hand here with the shoulder and the forearm. Same thing with the other hand. Now, feel free to pause this so that you can copy these basic shapes. Now here you'll see a closer look at the head. This is where I'm using a vertical line and a horizontal line to guide where I'm going to put the eyes. And I'm just going to use little triangles to kind of map out where the eyes will be and give it a little bit of attitude. A little bit darker lines now, not too dark, and a small nose. Remember, with such a big emotional face, you can make the nose a little bit smaller because the mouth and eyes, at least the eyebrows, are going to take up a lot. And the chin, try and make it flat at the bottom and angular. Give it a little bit bigger of a jaw, and taper the lines up to the head so you can draw like a placeholder for the hair. You don't need to do anything fancy with the hair for now. And continue to darken some of these lines, giving some form, a little bit more form to the chest, the arms, and especially the hands. Now, I'm going to slow it down just a little bit so you can see how I draw hands. I start with circles for the knuckles, and then for each finger, just try and outline the meat of the knuckles, where they go down into the fingers, and overlap your lines a little bit. And now the Hulk is always angry, so I put the hand in a fist. And you can connect these little circles of the knuckles to draw the hand, the outline of the hand. Here we got the palm, and look at how I overlap the knuckles just a little bit. And that shows a little bit of depth. Again, it's a small detail, but these small details, they matter. Alright, now on the other side, I'm using a little bit of a darker line to define the anatomy. And hands, here we go again. Hands are hard. There's no way around it. But just like I used a technique with the other hand, I'm drawing circles for the knuckles. And I'm taking my time. Don't rush. It takes a while to get good at drawing hands. One surefire way to not do it correctly is to rush. So take your time and look at your hand in a mirror, or take a picture of your hand, or somebody else's hand to help you out. All right, now let's back up and look at the drawing. It's looking good so far. I might want to change this leg. It looks a little too vertical. And that's why you draw lightly, so it's easy to make changes if you need to make changes. Once you're happy with it, then you can start, adding details. Here I'm adding the kneecap and some torn shorts because the Hulk is always, tearing his shorts when he grows bigger. And, you could add a few of the wrinkles and cloths and fabric tears and frays. Just have some fun with it. Here you can see how I do the other kneecap. And for the feet, he grows so big he pops out of his shoes. So let's draw some toes. I use just a curved line that looks like it overlaps and grows smaller for each of the toes. Just like this. And it's pretty simple. It's a little tip that I recommend, practicing. Don't draw too many toes. And you could add a little bit of the toenails if you want. Same thing with the other side. You got the heel, the ball of the foot, and a big toe. Give him some meaty feet. He's got to carry that big, heavy, strong body around. So there we go. All right, you've made it this far. Now let's focus on drawing Hulk's pretty angry face, and I will just say, dark eyebrows, a mirror helps. So if you can look in the mirror and go, and kind of like see what an angry face looks like, you get these lines that come out from the nose to the mouth, and you can draw like the line that hooks over the nostril a little bit. And for the mouth, you got the opening of the mouth, and then you can do like a line for the teeth, just like this. Yeah, simple. And then even like show some of the canines maybe. Doesn't need to be too complex. And of course the tongue is just like a bird shape. And you can see I shade in the back of the mouth. That's fine, you can do that. And just focus on these features that make like an angry face. I can't stop doing that. And do that in the mirror a lot, and you'll see some of the cheekbones might protrude, darken the lines of the jaw, and when you get to the hair, don't worry about it too much. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just a bunch of triangular looking points. He's got crazy shaggy hair anyway, because he's always angry. Have some fun with this. All right, good job so far. So now we're going to add some details. Details to these muscles mean veins, bulging out of the arm. So think of the letter Y. We're going to draw the letter Y shaped vein just like this, and maybe a line to separate the bicep from the tricep, and then turn the letter Y upside down and draw it again on the forearm, right there. Maybe some extra veins in the letter shape of an S. And here you can see I'm doing like the little lines on the knuckles. You can do that also. Now, despite eating lots and lots of tacos, the Hulk still has a muscular belly. So we can draw it just like this. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then moving on to the hand and the other arm, you're going to draw some more veins and some darker lines showing the anatomy. All right, overlapping muscles. There's a little Y-shaped vein. And here's another one. All right. Doing such a good job. Don't forget to darken the lines a little bit. It's going to speed it up for you. Just a reminder to pause if you want. And here I'm just darkening some of the lines. Gonna add some details to the feet, like some veins also. Maybe refine the shapes a little bit, and even create some debris, some rocks, flying up from, his impact, or the wall he's busting through, or whatever, All right, now this step is not necessary, but it's encouraged. And for the background, I'm just kind of mapping out a perspective, all the lines emanating from one point in the middle. And I'm going to start shading very lightly where I imagine the shadows are on Hulk. If the light is over his shoulders shining down, then his chest is going to be dark, his hands are going to be dark, and that's just an advanced technique. If you want to try it, you can go for it. But let's get on to the markers. All right. Now I have all these markers, but I'm going to start with green because the Hulk is green, and I'm using a light green at that. I can use a dark green later, but I'm going to start with the light green first. Just kind of outlining the parts that I want to color. Take your time with this. You can use colored pencils or crayons if you want, but I have markers, so I'm using markers. You can see I've outlined the area. Now I'm going to start coloring it in and shading it later with the dark green. A light touch, you don't want to press too hard. You can see I'm just being really careful, taking my time. It's not a race. And I'll speed the video up later just to save time, but I wanted to explain, with markers, it's a little bit more permanent. You can't erase it, so really take your time. Be careful. All right, now I'm going to use the darker green just to add some shadow. And I'm using black to outline it, some of the features as well. Sorry for my neighbor's dogs barking, if you hear them. Now, a closer look at the face, you can see I'm adding some of the details of the mouth and continuing with the same light green for the rest of the body. And I'm using dark green for the shadow area. And I use the side of the marker too as well, not just the tip. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Some of these jagged lines have a little bit of character. But you'll see I start with light and then I go light to dark. Light green, medium green, and then black. Light green, medium green, and then black. Each doing more details than the next. Don't forget about the feet and the knees. Same method. Light green, medium green, and then a bit of black to outline. Alright, let's color Hulk's shorts now. Now don't forget, there's a big highlight on the thigh right there, and his shadow is casting a shadow on part of his shorts too. So, I don't have a light purple, but I do have a blue, so I'm going to use a blue as a light purple. And we'll see how that works. And you can see I'm using the side of the marker to lay down big swaths of it, and I'm not coloring it in completely. I'm using black to outline and assessing, and here I had just thin little lines on top of the blue to kind of unify those colors just a little bit. Not bad. Now, let's do the background. Alright, starting with yellow, I draw lines that start from the center of the page behind the Hulk, and then I go to a little bit darker color of orange, and I want to make it look like the Hulk is blasting out of something, going somewhere. And I had forgotten that I had a gray marker, but I saw it on the table and decided to use it, and I like how it looks. So you can see all the lines converging to a single point behind the Hulk, and that gives the impression that he's blasting out towards the viewer. Just touching up the Hulk drawing with a few details here and there. I'm so proud of you all. You did a good job drawing with me today. Now, drawing is difficult and it takes practice, and practice makes progress. So you're getting stronger, just like the Hulk. Just keep it up. Be sure to show your drawings to your friends and family today. And, I'd like to see what you all do, so share online if you have permission. And let me know what you want to draw next. Good job, everyone. Bye-bye.